Xero has 3 different plans, and I bet you that most of you watching who are signing up for Xero right now are about to pick the wrong one. And that's especially true if you're coming over from something like QuickBooks Online, where you might end up overpaying simply because you think you need to choose something that's the same tier level. However, I will say that Xero and QuickBooks are a little bit apples and oranges, and today we're going to talk about that. Now, I'm a CPA, and after testing lots of different accounting softwares, I finally moved my own books over to Xero last year, and I've made a lot of videos about that switchover. So let me save you a little bit of trial and error when it comes to picking the plan that is going to be best for you. And stick with me until the end, because I'm going to show you the one simple move you need to make to ensure you don't have to stress over this decision ever again, even if you pick the wrong plan to begin with. Now, here is one of the common misconceptions when it comes to figuring out which plan is right for you. It is not based on how big your business is, how much revenue you have, or even how many employees you have. The actual key to which one is right for you is based on the actual tools and features you really need within the software. Because it's great to have a whole bunch of features, but if they're not things you're actively using, then you don't want to be paying for them. And if you're using QuickBooks Online, I'm going to tell you exactly how to figure out which one is right for you based on the current version of QuickBooks you're using. So really, there are 3 things you need to know about your needs to be able to pick the right plan for you. First, you need to decide if you plan to use Xero for doing things like invoicing and paying bills. If that's something that you're going to be using it for, then you need to get an idea of how many of those you want to be able to send per month. We'll talk about the limits coming up here in a minute. Next, you want to decide if you really are just using this for tax reporting, or if you want to use Xero to do more forward-looking things, to track KPIs and cash flow, and to get all the charts and graphs that you would want. And the third thing you need to know is if you have any specialized needs. For example, do you need multi-currency? If you are buying and selling in various different currencies, that's something you need to know about. Or if you do project-based billing, that also is a feature that you would want to make sure to have on your list. So regardless of whether you're a solopreneur or you have 20 different employees, you could still be on the same plan, just depending on your needs. Now, before we go plan by plan and look at what's included, if you're still not sure if Xero is right for you and you're trying to make a decision on whether you're going to sign up, then I want you to go check out my accounting quiz. I actually spent last year doing bookkeeping in multiple different systems, and I saw a lot of pros in many of them. And I fully believe that the platform that is right for you is not right for everyone. And that means I don't necessarily think Xero is right for everyone either. So if you're still trying to decide and wanting to know what the best fit for you is based on my research, go take my accounting quiz at jamietrull.com/accounting quiz. It takes only 2 minutes and you get specialized recommendations and deals based on your results. All right, now let's jump into the pricing here. And I'm going to bring this up with all of the Xero plans first. And then I'm also going to show you the QuickBooks plans too, so that you can figure out, especially if you're moving from QuickBooks, what the right one for you is in Xero. And of course, just a quick disclaimer, these are the current prices as I am talking about it today. These are my specially negotiated deals. If you want them, they're generally going to be a lot better than what you can find on the website directly. So if you're looking for Xero deals, you're going to find them at jamietrull.com/Xero. And you know what? If you decide that QuickBooks is the way you want to go, no shame there. It is popular for a reason. I do have QuickBooks deals as well at jamietrull.com/QuickBooks. Okay, so I am on the Xero webpage right now, and this is what their current deal is. So you can see up top, they're going to show you what the deal is, and then they're going to show you what happens once that deal runs up. Right now, they're doing 80% off for 3 months. This is just something that you can find on the regular Xero webpage. I will say my deal is actually 90% off for 6 months, which is obviously better than 80% off for 3 months. So again, if you do plan to sign up, make sure to go to jamietrull.com/Xero to do it. I don't know about you, but I don't like paying more money than I need to. But for the sake of this conversation, let's take a look at this pricing. And I'm actually going to really focus more in on the second pricing. So of course we have our intro promo pricing, which looks amazing, but what happens after the fact? Hopefully you'll be using this for the long term. So you want to be prepared with what the price is going to be once that promo runs out. So for the currently, as I'm recording this in the summer of 2026, the price is $25 a month. month. For growing, it's $55 a month. And for established, it's $90 a month. Now, just for fun, before we move on, I want to go ahead and pull up the QuickBooks Online pricing right now. This is with the new increases that are going into effect in August of 2026, already reflected, which you may or may not have seen come through your bill just yet. But for QuickBooks, their primary lower tier is $38 a month. Their mid tier is now $85 a month. And now their highest tier is jumping from $115 a month all the way to $140 a month. Now, importantly, that's not exactly, like I said, a one-for-one comparison when we look at the lowest, middle, and highest package, but you'll notice that for Xero, they are all lower. And I'm also going to talk about why you might even be able to downgrade if you're coming from QuickBooks. So now that we've talked about pricing, let's look a little bit more deeply at the features that come with each of these. So starting with the early, like I said, the big differential here is if you're planning to use it for invoices and for paying bills directly through Xero, then there are going to be some limitations, mainly with the early plan. So with early, you can send up to 20 invoices and pay up to 5 bills, again, directly through the system. Now, personally, I actually don't use Xero for invoicing. I could, however, I actually use my banking platform to do that. That's just how I've always done it before I even moved to Xero. Maybe I'll check and see if I want to switch, but for right now, that's been working just fine for me. So that hasn't really been an issue. So again, it depends on what you actually plan to use within the software, whether that's going to be a constraint for you. Now, we can also take a look down here and see that ultimately it has a lot of the main features that you do get even within this early plan, right? You're still going to get reconciliations. You're still going to get document capture, real-time reports, W-9 and 1099 management, which is awesome. Sales tax even comes in there for those that need it. If you have a product-based business and need to handle sales tax, that's in the early plan. Remember, this is only currently $25 a month after your promo period. You're also still going to have the ability to visualize with some basic graphs. So again, you're going to have your bookkeeping, but you're also going to have some graphs that show you what's going on in your business. They don't just put that into the higher levels. Now, the higher levels have advanced analytics that you can get, which I'm mildly obsessed with. But again, it depends on what you're actually going to use. Don't get it if you don't really see yourself using that often. And I love that even the basic version comes with cash flow forecasting. That is not typically something you find in an accounting software. That's often a couple $100 a month bolt-on that you have to do outside of your accounting system. So that's huge. Even just 30 days of cash flow forecasting. Again, Xero is going to use some AI to figure out what your typical cash inflows and outflows are, and it's going to forecast it forward to help you see if there's any potential shortfalls. That's amazing, especially in such a low cost tier level. So what don't you get in early? Let's talk about that because there are a few things that you will not get. Like I said, you're not necessarily going to get the big performance dashboards that let you customize a whole bunch of stuff, or the health scorecards that you can get in the 2 higher versions that, again, are just a way to really keep track of what's going on in your business a little bit more closely, and no KPIs and ratios. That's something that only comes in the highest tier. I absolutely love it, but again, don't pay for it if you're not going to use it. Now, here's where some of those more specific needs come in, and this is what's going to dictate a lot of which plan you need to choose. If you need multi-currency, well, that's only going to be available in the higher plan. And if you're needing things like job costing and project management, that again is going to be something that is going to be available only in the highest plan. Now, when it says employee expenses and mileage claim, again, only available in the highest plan, that means the ability for your employees to claim expenses through the accounting software and for you to reimburse them. Now, that's something that I want to use. I'm still using Bill.com, which is what I had previously used for reimbursements. I use their spend and expense, which I've really liked, and I just haven't spent the time to actually move things over. But again, if you are actually doing this where you are doing a lot of reimbursement to your employees, then it may be worth it to have the highest plan of Xero for that. And again, other things like benchmarking against the industry or making international bill payments, those again are really specific based on your needs. Now, the other thing is that for Xero, inventory is always an add-on. It is not included in any of the packages. And you do have to have either the middle tier or the highest tier in order to be able to add on Inventory Plus. And if you're curious what Inventory Plus is and if it will work for your needs, you can do a little demo of it here on the website. I will link this down below. Now, there are some other cool features that come in both the Essentials and in the Established plan that you don't get in the Early plan, but a lot of them aren't necessarily must-haves. So, for example, they've rolled out an auto reconciliation feature, which is kind of cool and saves you some time, but it's not really necessary. And again, the higher plan you have means the more cash flow forecasting you get. So it's 30 in the Early plan, and then it goes to 60 days or a full 180 days. So you can forecast for 6 months into the future with the Established plan. Now, I know I mentioned that if you are on QuickBooks Online, you may be able to downgrade when you move to Xero. And that is because a couple of the things that you have to pay for and get a higher version for in QuickBooks Online actually come in all packages for Xero. And that is actually one of my favorite things about Xero. So first and foremost, all plans come with unlimited users. You can add your employees, you can add your accountant, you can add anybody you want as a Xero user, and you can restrict what access they are able to view and things that they're able to do in there. And that's huge because maybe you just want your team member to be able to see some information about their division. Well, you can set it up that way. So you don't find yourself having to upgrade simply because you need more users. And the other thing, and this is probably my favorite thing, I've already made a video about this as well, but my absolute favorite thing that comes in all packages of Xero is tracking categories. Now, tracking categories can be used for all kinds of things. In QuickBooks, you might be used to calling them classes. That's what they call it there, class tracking, but it is tracking categories in Xero. Some people also used to use tags in QuickBooks until they made a whole bunch of changes last year and got rid of a lot of the tagging methodology that you could have in the lower levels. So that drove a lot of people to have to upgrade last year to QuickBooks Plus in order to be able to segment out their financials in the way they wanted to see it. So if you want to be looking by different location or by different division or whatever it is, maybe different channel if you sell online and in store and you want to be able to see that separately, that's stuff that you can use tracking categories for. And if you're curious about tracking categories and how I use them, definitely check this video out next because I do a deep dive into the functionality and why it is literally my favorite feature in Xero. Now, like I said, you may be able to downgrade from whatever you're on QuickBooks, especially if you're on something like QuickBooks Plus, to a lower level of Xero, especially if you're on QuickBooks Plus, let's say because you're trying to get more users or because you want access to class tracking. Or if you have an inventory-based business, and so maybe you're on Plus because you want access to the inventory tracking functionality. Thankfully, in Xero, the growing plan, which is their mid-tier plan at $55 a month, can also be used with their inventory module, and that's an extra add-on of $39 a month. So when you add those two things together, you're still paying less than you were paying for QuickBooks Plus, especially once those price increases that QuickBooks is doing have gone fully through. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that there's one thing that is a mistake a lot of people make that costs them money, and that's thinking that they need to go with the highest level because you can always switch. So for you, it could make sense to try out the highest level, and if you're not using the functionality, you can very easily downgrade. Or you can start at a lower level and see if you feel like you're missing anything. That said, if you use my 90% off for 6 months, you might as well go with the higher level because it only costs a couple of bucks a month and you can try out all the features and see if they're helpful to you and then downgrade after that 6 months if you're not using it. And the great thing about that deal too is that you're only paying a little bit a month while you're probably getting all your information over from QuickBooks to Xero and really learning the platform. That way you have some time before you need to go shut down QuickBooks and you're not paying 2 full price subscriptions at one time. Now, one thing I'll also add is that I don't typically recommend switching accounting softwares simply because of the cost. If you're really happy with the software that you're on, then don't think you absolutely need to switch. However, if you haven't been happy for a while and these price increases keep happening and you've decided it's probably time, then I will promise you it's not as hard as you think it might be. In fact, I actually made a video where I recorded myself switching my own books from QuickBooks to Xero in under 60 minutes. So if you want to see how easy it can be, then watch that video next. And if you're still on the fence, you can go watch this video where I talk about why I made the switch to Xero and why I do it again in a heartbeat. Thanks for joining me. Make sure to comment any thoughts or questions that you have below, and I'll see you next time.